I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Nantucket Memorial Airport Commission for December 12th, 2017. This meeting is being both audio and video recorded. Commissioner Topham is on the phone and is participating remotely because her physical attendance is unreasonably difficult. Therefore, all votes will be taken by roll call. Commissioner Buscarin is supposed to join us as well, but he has not yet been heard from. Are there any comments on the agenda?
Nope.
No.
Hearing none, it is adopted. Are there any comments on the minutes of November 14th and or November 21st?
Nope.
Hearing none, is there a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Topham, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Planzer?
Aye.
Commissioner Sparrow?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. They are adopted. We need a motion, please, to ratify the warrants of November 29th and December 6th, 2017.
I'll take that motion.
Thank you, Mrs. Topham.
I'll second.
How do you vote, Commissioner Topham?
Aye.
Commissioner Planzer?
Aye.
Commissioner Gasparo?
Aye.
And chair votes aye. Pending leases on contracts, we have 3. They're pretty much self-explanatory, I believe, are they not, Mr. Rafter?
Yes, I believe so. It's a beach license, a contract for award of a bid for a de-icer, and a contract amendment with no cost to Airport Media Solutions for our advertising consultant.
Are there any questions?
Just one?
Yes, sir.
I was kind of curious.
Hang on.
What kind of a bike?
Hang on, Mrs. Topham.
Just one question.
Sorry.
Is the de-icing truck a replacement vehicle or is it an additional piece of equipment?
It will be replacing a tow behind that we have currently. This is a dedicated vehicle. It's an actual vehicle with a boom, where we currently have a tow behind that is in need of repair or removal.
Great.
Commissioner Topham, did you have a question?
Oh, I was just curious as to, I saw that there was a bike going on. I wanted to know what kind of a bike it is. Is it something similar to what the police do on the beach?
No, there was a picture. Actually, there was a photograph of it in your packet. And it's
Okay, well, I missed it then.
we're not. It's a 3-wheeled thing with a container in front, and but it's not up tonight. It's pending. He asked us to hold off consideration
Oh,
until next.
now I see it. I didn't push the last page. Okay, very good. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Okay, so we are looking for approval of the beach license agreement, the contract with Ground Support Specialists LLC, and the contract amendment with Airport Media Solutions LLC. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
How do you vote, Mrs. Topham?
Aye.
Ms. Planzer?
Aye.
Mr.
Aye.
Gasparo? And the chair votes aye. Is there public comment at this time? Pending matters? General fund repayment?
On that issue, Jamie sent a request to the FAA on November 27th requesting an update. They indicated they're working on a response and expect to have it back to us soon. But I spoke to Mary Walsh, who's the head of that department. She explained that they're extremely busy on a couple of other major compliance issues. So they're
Not having to do with us.
No, not with us, other airports. Very busy department. On the Brookfield Assets LLC sublease to FedEx, we received the sublease. However, as you may recall, our representative at Anderson and Krieger has changed, and the individual that's taken that over would like a little more time. She wants to verify a couple of more things before we finalize that, so it's still on hold. And on the crew quarters development, our attorney's been in contact with FAA counsel, who has checked with the compliance division in Washington as well as the legal portion of compliance in Washington. And they seem to feel that we should have the ability to move forward on our own, and that this may not require a non-aeronautical land release request. So Dave is working with a lady's name, I believe is Mary McCarthy, the attorney for the FAA, to verify that and confirm before, so that we can move forward with it. Additionally, we heard back from Vicki Marsh from Copeland and Page, who has indicated that our request to remove the Delta parcel from the land court has been approved, and she'll be sending over the appropriate documentation for that.
Any questions?
No.
Nothing on the T hangers?
Well, on the T-hanger discussion, that's still in the queue, and we're looking at, we're going to have to perform the analysis as the advantages, disadvantages, but there's no movement on that yet, no.
The next item is sort of a placeholder and something we will not be discussing tonight. Finance, the preliminary fiscal year 19 budget.
And just
Which
from
we've all received recently a new version.
a scheduling perspective, this is the second draft. We'll have the final one at the next meeting, and then subsequent to that, we present to the Board of Selectmen in January. I'd like to start just by noting that current certified retained earnings at the end of July 1, 17, were 1.9 million. And the fuel revolver fund balance, FY17, was 1.9. Also, if you note in the budget, we're not projecting, or we haven't put any revenue in for the, what I'll call the delta in the fuel revolver, and I'll go over that in a second. But also the fund balance for the PFC at 2017 actual was 1.2 million, projected at 18 is 1.2, and proposed for 19 is 1.3. Again, all in accordance with what is in the plan for PFCs. And the stability fund is in 2017 was 200,000, 18 226,000.
Excuse me, that's a stabilization fund, right?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, it's not your fault, but I just wanted to make sure we were talking about the same thing.
And I'm glad we started that last year, because we have 2 retirements coming up that will not have a negative impact on the budget. So, to the budget. Our revenues are projected to come in slightly higher, but we cannot budget for some things that we're fairly certain will occur. We have proposals in for the airport gas, which will increase some of that. And again, if we're successful at leasing the land on Bunker Road or Sun Island, there'll be increases that are not accounted for in the revenue. The expenses went up by about 300,000, and the 3 main drivers are identified: salary and wages, fuel farm repairs, and professional services. Salary and wage includes 2 years of the labor agreement, as well as some other changes and changes in where it's funds were identified previously. The fuel farm repairs, we're looking to put that possibly into the contract with, when we put out our new fuel RFP, that it will be funded through that process. And professional services of $53,000 for a new PFC application, which will be reimbursable once that's approved as well. So the net is a net earnings before anything else is a loss of 1.19. We would apply $398,000, if you will, to balance that from its retained earnings / PFC, because last year the PFC was kind of contained in that retained earnings. It's now broken out separately. In addition, we would apply a transfer from the fuel revolver of $400,000 and from the retained earnings of $400,000. Again, what we're doing here is we're taking from one fund to another to balance out the operating, with our ultimate goal eventually to be totally self-sufficient, self-sustaining, and operating alone. But we all acknowledge that, you know, fuel is a big part of our business, and that's where we make our money. So if you continue down, and what we're looking for approval on is what is in the red box tonight. The others for informational purposes. We wanted you to see what we're looking at in the out year, or the out portion of the year. So again, certified retained earnings, we start at 1.9 million. We back out the transfer for the budget of the 398, and then possible 18 budget transfer of 685,000 to do our capital projects. The theory again there was paying off the smaller capital projects with airport money and not taking them on a bond to reduce our debt service. That would bring the retained earnings down to 800.
More reassuring than having transparency.
I'm sorry? that a question?
No, there's
Static.
there's somebody interfering. You still there, Jeanette?
It was something at here. Yes, I've cleared it up.
Okay, thank you.
So that would bring that down to $826,000 in the fuel revolver. Again, we're showing a cap of fuel sales 4 million. Fuel purchases in the actual 17, it was 3.3 were the purchases. We're showing it as a typical revolver, 4 million in, 4 million out in the 18 budget, and again, not projecting anything in the delta. That's kind of like our insulation. We want to make sure in case fuel prices spike and people don't buy fuel or whatever. We want to be conservative there. So beginning fund balance in 18 would be about 1.9 million. We back out $300,000 transfer to the TAR fund, brings it down to 1.6. Now below the red box there, you'll see there's $125,000, and that says budget transfer at 2018 ATM to the stability fund recommended. We're not requesting approval for that at this time because it's something that may occur later, and as we go further into it, we'll have a better idea of exactly what the retirements may be coming on us and how much may be needed. But for programming, from the program perspective, we took out the 125 for the stability, and the seasonal hold room, again, it's a wild guess right now from the engineers, but they said $900,000, which would reduce the end balance in the fuel revolver down to $604,000. Now that is, again, I don't want to say all in, but for the most part, all in getting the projects done that we need to get done. It does not include any delta, which we should hopefully have. You can see the delta in 17 was $678,000. So it's getting low, but we still believe there's a cushion there, and I think it's being very conservative. If you look to the right, the other two boxes show the PFC fund balance and the stability fund balance. And again, these are just, for budgeting and projection numbers that we're looking at right now, but not necessarily requesting the approval on at this time. So with that, if you have any questions on detailed line items, we can go through that.
Does anybody have any questions?
I'm just curious on one item. Where is the expense for the new parking lot contract contained?
I'm going to ask Jamie that question.
It's net.
It's
Oh,
a
it's
net
net.
out of revenue.
The question was, where is the parking cost of the parking contract shown? And it's netted out of parking lot fees, right?
The revenue. Okay, thank you.
Why did we reduce it? Why did we reduce the parking lot revenue for well, we didn't for 18.
Well,
right?
and I'm going to say two reasons, and Jamie can tell me if I'm wrong or add to it. One is we are paying their salary budget, whatever, so that is a reduction where we were kind of doing it with, for lack of a better term, in-kind services. We were applying a lot of our manpower to operate the parking lot concession. The other is during the transition, for lack of a better term, it was somewhat of a free-for-all in terms of there were some free days given, there were some periods of time that we allowed for a transition where we didn't institute the fines and we had warnings and things. So we anticipated that the first year would be a drop. The second year, I don't know that we're going to be back up, but hopefully by the third year, we're going to be back into a much higher level. And a lot of that's going to have to do with enforcement as well, which we're working on actually supplementing.
Do we think this level of taxi permit revenue is sustainable?
I think,
I mean, we see the decline even from 16 to
well,
17.
yeah, some of that has to do with the TNCs or Transportation Network carriers. And so we're seeing some of the business being siphoned off by that. Also, the decline in employments.
Right.
So I think it's gotten to a point where it's almost at the bottom, but we're still going to see some leakage from the TNCs. I'm working with the manager from the Vineyard on state legislation change that would allow us, hopefully, to enforce a fee on the Uber, Lyft, TNC type operators to offset some of that. Because right now, the state law does not allow for our airport, it excludes and allows Boston Logan only to be able to control them with fees and regulations. And our attorney has indicated that he believes that that's just a simple, I forget what he termed it, but some regulatory type fix that needs to be done.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else? Mrs. Topham, do you have any questions?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Do we want a motion now, or do you want to wait another?
I think I'd like to just wait till the next meeting, give everybody a chance to review this. If any other final changes come up, we'll make everybody aware of it at the next meeting. But, you know, I think it's best, Dan, we have the time. We normally approve it in January. We can do that, and then we'll take it to the Board of Selectmen.
Okay. Thank you.
Sounds good.
Your report.
And I apologize. I think also a handout was given out too that had our capital projects listed as well. And as I mentioned earlier, one of our goals is to pay, you know, some of the smaller projects out of our own funds and not have to go through lengthy debt service projects. So, okay. On the project side of the house, the vault replacement, we had a meeting November 30th up in Burlington with FAA and MassDOT to discuss both the vault and the FIDS PA project. On the vault project, it was determined that the additional work needed, which is the estimate right now is $350,000, would be broken down into two separate projects, for lack of a better term. One will be a continuation of the existing, which is, it'll be made up of the 480 volt feed to the vault room. That should be covered by what is allowed under federal regulations for the grant, up to a 15% change order and 90% funded through FAA. I just saw an email come in as I came over. I haven't even had a chance to read it. I'm trying to get from the engineers what exact numbers seem to be, but again, it should be, we should only have to pay the 5% of that portion. Now, I don't know what that portion, how much of the 350 is going to be for the 480 volt. The other portion of the project, which I believe is more expensive, is for a new generator. That will be a new grant under FAA, and they verified at the meeting that we have enough or sufficient funds in our carryover entitlement money that they can fund it there once they get their authorization. And as you know, the federal government has only been extended, I think, another week or so. But they agreed to issue a separate grant for that and cover the 90% for the generator portion. So I had a discussion with our engineers today and emphasized the need to get this done and get it done quickly. We are currently having some challenges with our runway lights, and it's imperative that this be resolved as soon as practical. The PA system project, or the portion of it was the flight information display screens and the public address system. As you know, the flight information display screens are up and running, and that portion of the contract is done. The public address system estimated bid when they put their proposal in was about $198,000. They've since come back and asked for about another $190 to $200,000. We sent them a letter last week and told them they have a contract, they're to finish it, otherwise we're going to pull the bond. I conferred with Mr. Mackey before that. They reviewed the letter, they approved it, and we sent it out. So we're waiting to hear back from the contractor, which is Infax. On the ramp area, Area 3, the majority of the work is complete. It's operational. The only thing left to be done in the spring is the contractor will come back and do seal coating. So, and that project should be under budget and within scheduled timeframes. Geometry issue, we've established a number of meetings with McFarland & Johnson and the FAA to go through exactly the scoping of the project and alternatives and what the FAA is actually looking for. So we have, I think, one meeting in December and another one in January already scheduled, and the third one on the list. The ground storage equipment design, the garage, that project has been put on hold. As you may recall, the estimates came in between $1.7 and $2.3 million. We thought that was excessive. We just don't have the funding available for it, so we're putting that project on hold and considering the possibility of an alternative type of structure in the future. The restaurant enclosure, we're going to be putting that contract forward. We received bids for that. You may recall that was a project that came in. The construction was $115 and the engineering was approved at the last meeting. It's in...
Jeanette?
Sorry, guys.
The project is in excess of the appropriation, but we're working with the finance director on how we can accomplish that project. Expansion of the hold room, we reviewed various alternatives with an architectural firm and McFarland Johnson. We provided their feedback and we're awaiting a fee proposal from McFarland Johnson and scope of work. And hopefully from that will come a better estimate as well. The snow removal equipment, the blower head is due here the 15th, which is Friday. I spoke to our attorney today. He's going to reach out to to Kodiak's attorney because we have not heard anything from them. We shipped back our head. That one's supposed to be on its way. And as our attorney reminded me, he said he had 4 inches of snow. So
Snow's coming.
so hopefully we'll have that on Friday, but we have not heard from them. On the RFP bid updates, Bunker Road and Sun Island Road RFPs have been modified and reissued. You may recall we reduced the size of the Bunker Road parcel significantly and basically went to the minimum allowable rate that we're allowed to go. They're due back in on January 5th. The restaurant flooring RFP, the insurance company has agreed to pay the difference, which was a significant amount of money. That's scheduled to be completed in January. We are working on the RFP with legal and determining the fair market value rate. As you recall, if we go below fair market value, we have to write a justification and abide by the procurement rules for that. I mentioned before this may result in the closing of the restaurant for a period of time for possibly 3 to 4 months in the winter. But at that time, we would be doing the vestibule, the floors, and selecting a new operator, allowing them some time to come in and do some renovations as well. Hangar 5, we just received back the final documents from legal. We're reviewing them. Hopefully we can have that advertised shortly. It's going to have to go downtown, get procurement sign off, but that shouldn't be a big hurdle. The de-ice truck bids we approved earlier. And on the flat roof building, I'm in the process of developing a request for expressions of interest. My understanding is you can issue that prior to any RFP, and it'll guide you through as to which way you develop the RFP, whether it's for disposal, reuse, or whatever. So we're going to put out a request for interest. Under the operations side of the house, derelict aircraft that was mentioned at the last meeting, and just you're either lucky or smart, I guess. But the next day, one of the aircraft were removed. We're dealing with we're attempting to determine actual ownership of the existing airplane that's there. And we're working with them, and NOAA is working to develop a process to expedite any removal of derelict aircraft. Our family assistance plan, we have our tabletop exercise scheduled for February 6th. And Katie's been doing a lot of work on that. Coordination efforts are going well. We have been informed by 2 airlines. One has confirmed additional service. The other has indicated that they're looking at additional seasonal service next season, which makes our program for increasing and adjusting the hold room, the 5th position for parking, the relocation of counters, all of that is a primary project that we're going to be working on this winter. Actually, NOAA's well underway with that. Our full-scale exercise has been rescheduled. It's either going, well, it's in the process of being rescheduled. It's either going to be April 7th or 8th, which is a weekend. Our CIP meeting with FAA and MassDOT was held on November 15th. Top 2 AIP projects for the year will be the EA, EIS, and the runway centerline touchdown zone lights. We are seriously looking at in FY20 putting a hold on any non-AIP eligible projects so that we can catch up, get everything reconciled, reduce our debt service, and get things organized. Our certification inspection is either going to be the week of May 7th or 14th. We're still coordinating that with the airport's certification officer. Various maintenance activities going on. One is that we had in our capital budget to purchase additional airline podiums in the hold room. Our staff looked at it, got the drawings, and they're building the podium, so it'll save us a lot of money in-house. I'll have some pictures hopefully at the next meeting, but there are a number of things that they have done that are saving us some dollars. You may recall when we put out ramp lights, we didn't have enough funding to do as many as we wanted, so we reduced it down to 2. Well, they are in the process of rehabilitating each and every one of the other metal ones. And when you see the pictures, it's night and day. It's an incredible difference. Very talented. They worked to replace the split rail around the corral, organized the C&D piles, and prepared for all the winter equipment's ready to go for a snow season. And one other reminder, the annual town meeting is April 3rd. Any questions before I go into statistics?
Nope.
Okay, Dave. Oh, I'm sorry. The operations are down again, 8.05% for the month and 12.7 year to date. The general aviation operations were up 2.4% over last November, and year to date down 2%. This next one is a change. The enplanements. The enplanements are actually up 1.1%. Still down about 6% year to date, but for the month they were up. And in terms of airline service, Cape Air and Nantucket Air continue to see the decreases, while JetBlue, Tradewind, and Retrix saw increases in enplanements over October. In the Boston market, Cape Air experienced 9% decrease, while JetBlue carried 542 passengers. They didn't serve Boston last October, and overall the market saw an increase of 319 passengers, or 13%. New Bedford traffic saw an increase of 8%, actually. On the White Plains market, Cape Air carried 31 passengers and didn't operate last October. The Hyannis market saw a total increase of 110 passengers, or 6%, with Cape Air down 70%, Nantucket Air down 33%, and Retrix carrying 1,057 passengers, or 156% increase over last year. In the JFK market, JetBlue saw an increase of 24% while maintaining a load factor of 76%. Vineyard traffic was down 18%, and jet fuel is going through the roof. For October is up 30.9%.
Wow.
Year to date 4.3%, and for November, gets better, was up 89%. Now, again, percentages are, if you can go to the next one, or that's it, no, that was it, I'm sorry. It's a very high percentage, but you can see if 89% in July and August be a whole big different story, but it's still very good news that October, November were up significantly in jet fuel sales. Avgas is down again 12% in October, and year-to-date down almost 19%. In November, it's down 3.9%. And freight for October was up 7.6 over last October and up slightly year-to-date. FedEx up 5% and UPS up significantly at 198%. So a big jump in the UPS side. I don't know what that's attributed to.
We're finally flying stuff over instead of bringing it by truck.
On the noise front, we received one complaint as opposed to two last year, and there's a summary in your packet of what they entail. On the personnel report, I just want to report that a longtime employee, Ted Mueller, who began with us in January 6th of 1997, has announced his retirement in January. So Ted will be retiring, and Basil Edwards, another janitorial part of the house, has been selected to fill the opening in operations. So we have advertisements out, and we're interviewing for two positions in the janitorial crew. And last but not least, I see there's a request for travel in for me to attend the AAA conference in April. It's their annual conference in San Diego. And that's my report.
Is there a motion with respect to Mr. Rafter's travel request?
Make a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Thank you. Any comments or discussion? How do you vote? Mrs. Topham?
Aye.
Ms. Planzer?
Aye.
Mr. Gasparo? And the chair votes aye. Are there any questions on Mr. Rafter's report?
I had a couple of questions. Why is the PA system coming in almost double? I mean, what was their reasoning? If I've heard correctly, it was 109 with
That's correct.
190,000
You're
or
right.
whatever it was
You're
for
right.
the original, and they wanted another 190.
You're right.
That's correct. I don't know that they ever provided a detailed breakdown, but the two items that were driving it were the electrical installation. The initial electrical contractor bailed on them when there was a slight delay, and they had a very difficult time trying to get an actual price. They could never get a lump sum price from electrical contractor. They only got time and materials, and one was estimated at $200,000, just the electrical installation portion, which even the contractor thought was ridiculously high. The other was they indicated that the supplier had increased his prices. But again, in review of the contract and with legal, we looked at it and they signed a contract. They could have procured that equipment back then when they had it. So our position is that they have a contract for that amount. They were supposed to deliver it. They need to do that. If not, that's why we have a bond.
Okay. And the other thing, you mentioned two additional airlines coming. And what has happened to the airline from New Bedford? I cannot remember the name. I'm sorry now. Has that ever come to fruition, or what's happening?
Not yet. The name was Island Shuttle. And
right.
I've been hearing every time, they're almost there, they're almost there. There is an aircraft that is operating in and out now as a charter that is owned by the company. It's a very nice 402. And last I heard, this was a month or so ago, I spoke to Kelly Slazarski at FAA, who was doing a temporary duty at Flight Standards, that they were going through their ground school and they had received most of their approvals and they had an influx of cash. So I have not heard, and I sent an email to Rick Arugio with no response.
It seems to have taken an awful long time. We are over a year or longer waiting for them?
Yeah, there were some delays because if you recall, both Rick Arugio and his wife had some significant health issues, some challenges they had to deal with. Then I think there was indications that there may have been some financial challenges, but Bill McGrath had relayed to me that he thought that was all addressed And that's why they were starting to see some movement. So I may have to go up to New Bedford and find out what's going on because they're not responding.
And what about on the freight side?
Freight, some of you may have seen on social media, on Facebook, Nantucket Allies continues to put a video out there that something's coming, Nantucket, something's coming, and I had to finally say what and when, and that was about a month ago, and I got a reply back from Mr. Shields that it's coming soon. So as anything else in our business, when the airplane taxis up, that's when we believe it and deal with it.
And what do you, Mrs. Topham, what Mr. Rafter said earlier was that 2 airlines have given us indications of possibly...
They're going to do additional service, yes.
Yes.
I got that.
Okay.
The other thing that I'm concerned about, and Mr. Rafter knows this already, is I'm really disappointed that we haven't found a way to keep the restaurant open, and I understand that the flooring's got to be done, et cetera, but I think that we're letting the airline people, not airline people, the passengers, there's no place for them to go to have a cup of coffee or anything. I just think it's very poor PR on our part, and I'm just voicing that now. Again.
Thank you. Do you want to say anything about your public relations strategy?
Well, we will be taking out an ad in the newspaper. We've been in contact, actually the editor's been in contact with us. I believe she's going to be doing a story on the restaurant, and we explained, our position. We also, what we have done is we offered the existing operator to stay on month to month, but he has indicated that's not viable. We're again offering, I think we offered that in writing and asked for a response to formalize that. So we will also be doing social media. We'll be putting it on our flight information display screens and a number of other outlets that will be getting the word out as to what's taking place. The thing is, as you all know,
I think it's a little too late for that, because I think there's a lot of chatter around town and they're not really happy with what's happening out there at the airport. So I just wanted to let you know that.
Yeah, well, I think we all knew this was going to happen, but if the
I think it should have been sooner announced to let the people know what was happening. I think that it's very late letting them know. I mean, the chatter is around town and everything like that, and I just thought that it would be better to have explained it sooner. And I just hope that it does come out positive from the newspaper and all the other avenues that you're going to be advertising or talking about it.
Well, and as I said, I mean, we initially thought it was expiring next year. That was our mistake. But the contract which the tenant holds and has expires December 31st. So I would have thought they'd be aware of that as well. But in any case, we dropped that and we're going to try to make up the time. But the other side is the restaurant has been open in continuous operation for 10 years straight with no significant rehabilitation, and we're looking to address some of that as well.
Okay.
Which is very good. I just think that, and you'll find that January, February, March, there's so many restaurants that aren't opened for people, and I just thought, it's poor timing.
Well,
again, I know you have to do the renovations and things that you have to do.
But in our discussions with the current operator, too, he had indicated he is losing significant money in the winter months. And there is no real incentive for him to remain on because it's a major loss to him.
Okay, that's interesting. Thank you.
I'm just going to throw this out, just a quick thought. Maybe this is viable, maybe it's not. Should we consider maybe like a small little stand of like some complimentary coffee and water? Like, is that
we could look at
How about we let Mr. Norton bring his
bike
coffee?
Well,
Arthur, that's a good thought.
I'm just thinking, I mean, for the amount of people, could we have a Keurig machine and a water bubbler? At least, and it's complimentary. I mean, I don't think there's that many people there, and of course, anything like that could get abused. But at least it would be like maybe in that main lobby, kind of where the tree is. That you at least.
Well, I would put it
or wherever you want to put it.
Where people are.
I don't know. I mean,
no, I think it's a good idea.
That's a good idea. We will definitely look
I
at
had
that.
suggested that to Mr. Rafter in an email when I
Well-
first mentioned that I was unhappy about the closing of the restaurant.
Yeah, I thought
If that
Jeanette
could
was
happen,
looking
that would be
at
great.
having an operator do it in that area, but if we do it, we don't have to go through the procurement things, so we will certainly look at that.
Okay. Are there any other commissioners' comments?
Not that I have. Thank you.
Mr. Gaspar, I think I was happy to look up and see Santa looking at me out of the control tower.
Back up, huh?
No good. Was he real or fake?
What do you think?
I don't know.
Are your grandchildren in the room?
No. Nobody in my room here.
Okay. Is there a public comment at this time? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to go into executive session under General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, to review executive session minutes as enumerated in the agenda under Clause 3 to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining. The chair has determined that an open session may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the Airport Commission. And Clause 3 to discuss strategy with respect to pending litigation related to FAA Part 13 complaint, a Part 13 complaint made to the FAA. The chair has determined that an open session may have a detrimental effect on the litigation position of the Airport Commission. And not to return to open session.
So moved, not to
Thank you.
return to open
Is there a
session.
second?
I'll second.
Thank you. How do you vote, Ms. Topham?
Aye.
Ms. Planzer?
Aye.
Mr. Gasparo?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Do we have anything to sign? Okay. So we'll be a couple minutes.